Yesterday, from writer Richard Curtis and director Danny Boyle, tells the story of a musician getting his big break. Not an unusual tale in and of itself. Boyle and Curtis, however, take what is a familiar premise and manage to bring a heartwarming and human angle to what might have been an ordinary romantic comedy, while suffering from some pacing issues and certainly not a perfect movie. Yesterday is thoroughly entertaining and makes for a refreshing experience if you're looking for something different at the movies. Newcomer Himesh Patel plays Jack Malik, a rock musician who has been struggling to find an audience. On the night he decides to give up his dream, the world is plunged into a blackout.
How much more black could this be? And the answer is none. None more black.
And he's hit on his bicycle by an oncoming bus, suffering a head injury. When he wakes up, he's seemingly in the same world, only with one major difference. Except for him, all traces and memories of the Beatles have been wiped from history. As seemingly the only person with any knowledge of the band or their music, he embarks on a new music career, claiming the songs are his. It's a premise that's been done before in series like Life on Mars. However, Boyle and Curtis bring a fresh take to what might have been a tedious story. With some genuinely warm and funny moments, the film never feels like it's ripping off other source material. The romantic comedy moments in the film don't seem contrived, and you feel there's some real chemistry in the cast. Everyone is likable enough, which makes it easier to suspend your disbelief and just go with it. Lily James is fantastic as schoolteacher Ellie, the once manager and love interest in the film. Kate McKinnon steals every scene she's in as Deborah, the seedy music manager who merely sees Jack as product and someone she can exploit to her own end. One of the biggest surprises in the film is Ed Sheeran as, well, Ed Sheeran. Sheeran shows some genuine acting ability. Of course, it helps that he's playing himself and doesn't have to stretch very far. The star of the film, Himesh Patel, is a joy to watch. Patel plays a man who gets everything he wants but almost loses everything and nearly loses himself in the process. Patel seemingly has a humble charm of a man who's in an unusual situation. It's that kind of human aspect that keeps the film relatable and grounded, and doesn't let it overly descend into the typical rom-com pablum that permeates many films of this type. Director Boyle does a fairly good job of keeping the story moving, however the film does suffer from a few problems. Though the film moves along at a fairly nice clip, it does get bogged down in some parts of the second and third act, and starts to feel overly long during some scenes. One or two scenes do feel particularly trite. However, it manages to rebound nicely and resumes moving along and picks up by the end of the film. Without getting into major spoilers, it does give you a satisfying ending and epilogue, which is something you want of a movie of this kind. There is a twist in the third act which will not be revealed here. At first it seems contrived, yet when taken in terms of the film, it makes much more sense considering it after the fact. The use of the Beatles songbook is integral to the story, and it never really devolves into becoming just another jukebox musical, a trap that this film could have easily fallen into. There are a number of jokes thrown in about the current state of the music industry, and they are well deserved. Yesterday is a bit more than a typical music-oriented movie or romantic comedy. It dives into questions about how people's lives change. Do we change? Do the people around us change? Would we still be the same if one piece of the puzzle was missing? How much do we have in common with those we've never met but who are also fans of the same thing? How would the world be a different place if certain things had turned out differently? It's those types of questions that make Yesterday a compelling movie on its own merits. While Yesterday is not a perfect film, it never feels as if it wastes your time. There are some pacing issues, a few standard rom-com tropes, and the film feels like it could have stood another pass in the writer's room to tighten it up a bit. However, the final result is still a movie that, even flawed, is still worth a watch. Obviously, you're going to enjoy it more if you're a fan of the Beatles. That's a given. However, there's enough here to satisfy even non-fans. While certainly not as good as other Beatles-related movies such as I Want to Hold Your Hand and Backbeat, it's still worth a watch. In a summer movie season crowded with subpar films, it's nice to see a human story that's not only different, but also uplifting with a positive message. Yesterday, directed by Danny Boyle, gets 3.5 out of 6 Chewbaccas. That's it for now. See you next time.
Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in. My